established, will be the newest member of the CROSQ family. And we are focusing a lot of resources into its development and to the development of the NQI in the Bahamas. Today's activity is CROSQ's fourth in the Bahamas within the last 12 months. Each activity has been undertaken within the project, which is part funded today's dialogue. The Bahamas is therefore the first member state of CROSQ in which such a national dialogue is taking place. CROSQ, through a number of other programs of assistance to the Bahamas, has assisted in carrying out an assessment of metrology needs, a review of the Standards Act for compliance, and also to establish a number of national technical committees to review and adopt regional standards that are considered as national priorities. And one example is the CARICOM Regional Standard specification for packaged water, and that is number 1, the first standard, and it was published in 2010.
To this first national forum promoting dialogue on national quality infrastructure, and particularly between the Bahamas Bureau of Standards, which falls under the portfolio of my ministry, and certainly our agricultural sector, having them work together in a unified fashion is of utmost importance to the goals and the ambitions we are looking to achieve. In August of this year, we conducted a national consultation to engage discussions of all stakeholder groups on a draft regional quality infrastructure policy being developed by CROSQ. The meeting was very successful, and Bahamians have demonstrated that they are enthusiastic and they are ready to embrace a culture where quality becomes a priority and a way of life. This is evidenced in some of the technical working groups that we've had on establishing certain standards through the Bahamas Bureau of Standards. I'm happy to say that the business community has embraced those technical working groups, evidence of water companies now having enhanced labeling on their bottles. We see increased labeling on prepackaged foods in our food stores, and other areas where the business community has embraced the idea of standards. And clearly by the attendance here today, the private sector here in the Bahamas is embracing the concept of quality. During the consultation meeting, I expressed the need for more global collaboration and cooperation as it relates to standards and quality. And today I want to reiterate the same sentiments. Having a global approach and a global unification with respect to quality standards is imperative. Such collaborations allow us to harmonize our positions in relations to standardization, conformity assessments, accreditation and metrology, and it also takes into account our unique heritage, culture, food, and ways of life. We heard some of those in the first presentation here today, of unique elements of Bahamian culture and society, and then how it would work with respect to quality. We have a great advantage to develop a national quality infrastructure correctly the first time, with guidance from our regional and our international partners, such as CROSQ and the Germany Metrology Institute, PTB, who are present here today. I think it's important as you look at government policy, I'm sure my colleague minister will speak to it more, but the investment and the dedication we are having in agriculture, certainly through the hard work of his ministry and his oversight of BAMC, being able to leverage the abilities and the accomplishments in agriculture and our commitment to agriculture, married with quality standards and a quality infrastructure, will not only allow, as I will speak to shortly, the development of the domestic food supply and food sources, but allow us to have a platform to expand what we are investing in our agricultural sector in this country to an international and export market, creating more opportunities for Bahamians in agriculture.
Those of you who have gathered together here from all over the world, so to speak, have come at a time when standards are important for quality assurances with respect to all that we eat, particularly the agricultural products that end on our table. Standards must be set from the farm to the table. All along the food chain, the line, those top quality standards must never, ever be broken.
Associations sit down together and look at where we should go forward. Julianne, the consultant, will refine the action plan as attached. And one of the things we wanted to look at, and we just discussed it, but I didn't interject, is in terms of when we talk about the 5 pillars of quality. So we looked at standards, conformity assessment, metrology. We need to identify, with respect to our agriculture sector, which this workshop is based on, from the strategic plan for agriculture, where we need to go. So we just talked about which standards. And in my group, I was in the marine group, and we talked about specification for sponge, which I just learned is a non-food item. I guess in livestock, CROSQ already has a regional standard for poultry and poultry products. These are the type of standards we would encourage the Bahamas to adopt, to start looking at in terms of where you should follow and what guidelines you should follow. From there, what we need to do then is look at conformity assessment. What types of testing you need to ensure that your poultry products follow the standard that you would have adopted at the regional level. And this is where the committee will come into place. Metrology, how do you know that when you weigh 10 tons of chicken, if it could produce that amount from what I saw this morning presentation, when you talk about 200,000 boilers, how do you know? Also in collude with the private sector, because of course, as you know, we heard the PSA this morning, that she's heard about standardization in Bahamas since 1983. So we know how long ago that is. So if the push from the private sector, that's not going to occur. So we need you to also assist Dr. Renee Buffer to get the requisite resources that she would need to implement this action plan. In terms of how do we go about after that action plan, committee makes the decisions on which standards to adopt, which testing they need. This is where Dr. Bufford could come to CROSQ, and also my colleague Suzanne, and we will look to support through a number of our programs. Recently, we know Bahamas had a problem with water and specifications for water and labeling of water, and we would have sent the technical officer from CROSQ to start what we call national technical committees to set up in terms of water, so that you can start that process of adopting that standard as a national level. Of course, the first thing that somebody mentioned as most important is the legislation, because I think at the moment what's holding up the adoption of those standards is that there is not legislation in place for that standard to be adopted. Again, private sector will be key in order to push the government to adopt the legislation to formally start a standards council, right, that's all that's missing from what I understand. And in terms of the support, then we would try to bring in our programs to help you to set up the national technical committees to start adopting the standards at the national level, and also putting the metrology capability. I believe Dr. Bufford already has a prover, just she needs a place to put it. So that tells you what needs to be done really is the infrastructure and the people put in place in order to start the Bureau. And CROSQ is here to support that through our programs, and of course through our other partners, PTB and the European Union as well. With that, I think I give a summary of what CROSQ is willing to do and where we want to go in terms of supporting the Bahamas.
We are getting ready to start the labeling, and I don't know if she's still here. Our chair is here. We have a chair for that committee, and she is Do you want to come up and talk? She would like to get that started, and she needs some help with some of you food processing folks that are here today and are interested in being on that committee. She wanted to put a plug in, so I'm doing that for you. So if you can you raise your hand and stand, and they could come and talk with you and give her your names and your phone number, email. So we would like to start that committee at least by the beginning of the first, because Christmas is right here. Bahamians shut down come December 1st. Everything shuts down. You know how we are. Don't say that, that's the truth. Speak the truth. So I'm not even looking at beginning that until January, come January, probably the second week of January. We have started, like I said, some technical committees. We would like to do some metrology stuff, but we have to get our building going, and so that's the next step. The other step is the council. So our legislation is in place, but we have hired a consultant, a legal consultant, to come and to look at the framework again. We had some help from CROSQ, but what we want to do now is to put the regulations to that, add that, also to see the gaps with the other sectors, like we talked about earlier. So that's something that we're getting ready to hire. We have someone coming in, hopefully next month, and we are going to do another private and public sector meeting where we will engage you all. So stay tuned for that. We are looking at all of the main regulatory frameworks. That's agriculture, that's environmental health. We have to work with customs, consumer affairs. Sorry, I can't think of the name, and also public health. So those three entities, in addition, I think we have to probably do some work with also transport, the Department of Energy. I think that falls under Ministry of Works. And so those main entities, will be pulling them. We want to harmonize our efforts. We don't want to duplicate anything, so we want to make sure that we're all on the same page and everybody will be inclusive in the process, because this is an inclusive thing. This is not something that we need to work in isolation.